Think it's time we rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do. Like, it's not that I don't care. I do think that there need to be people, good people in office, and that, whatever. I do think that that's important. But having this conversation, having these like kind of side battles about something that's not even having a conversation about the issues, right? It's just like, why am I wasted? Like, why does anybody waste their time on that? And I get that it gets clicks. You know what I mean? Hey, y'all, welcome to the Up and Up. I'm super excited, as always, to have Geoffrey Ginter. We have actually had a couple of conversations on before, and brought him back on because I saw a post. Or actually, you tagged me in this post, and I appreciate that because I really appreciated what you said in the post. It's like
You're welcome.
speaking my language. And so I thought it would be really cool to kind of reconvene, have a conversation about essentially this is the idea of I guess broad brush what I'm calling it is like the cult of personality, right?
Yeah.
And kind of getting stuck in this idea of looking at politicians as our saviors or as the villain, or you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. But let me not get ahead of things. Why don't you give us a little kind of recap of what you were, what you were saying?
Okay. Cool. What I see all the time, every day, to greater or lesser degrees. And a couple of days ago, when I made that post you referenced, it was pretty egregious. There is still, after everything that we have witnessed, after everything we are all going through, there is still this almost knee-jerk reaction, if not an outright pathology, that wants to either demonize or worship politicians, pundits, you name it. People are still talking about Bernie versus Hillary. I can't even get over that. They are still, talking about Jimmy Dore, versus the Young Turks, versus. And they are still talking about how Biden is better than Trump. And we need to fucking stop. Just stop right in your tracks. Recognize that in the last 50 years, when we abandoned mass movements, the last time we had a mass movement in the 1970s with the women's liberation movement and the last vestiges of the environmental movement and the anti-war movement, the last vestiges of the civil rights movement. Once we had finally eliminated those and we allowed Reagan to come in and bust up the unions, we allowed that to happen. Reagan did not just simply do that. We allowed it to happen, because if we say no, they don't have a choice. But we don't say no. And those few times when we do take to the streets, those very rare times, we say no, but they know that we don't mean it, because we keep going home, because we keep just giving in to everything that they want, grumbling, yelling about it, but doing it anyway. So after so many years, can we not recognize that there are not enough good guys, to elect, and that the ones that we do go still feel powerless to actually enact any of the things that they say that they want to? And after a certain time, can we not recognize that at least two things are likely, if not very possible? One, they didn't mean it in the first place. They're telling you what you wanted to hear so they could get the only two things they wanted, three things really: your money, your vote, and then your silence. So they didn't mean it, but they know that you want it, and they know the language they have to speak to be able to get what they want, which is power. And then they know that they can ignore you because they know they got you. So that's the first possibility. And then you get, the second possibility where, yeah, they want to, at least they did when they were running, but once they get in, they get chewed up, spit out, and or assimilated. And they're not able to do what they want within the confines of Washington, D.C. If it's just them, If the squad is actually what everyone wishes that they were, and they're actually trying to do what we all hope that they're trying to do, they are outnumbered under the current circumstances with a slim majority in Congress. Could they raise a ruckus like AOC said she was going to do? Yes, they could actually be the linchpin that stops everything in its tracks until what they want is passed. But that's still just the House. That doesn't solve the Senate. And this is another part of the thing. The ones that say they want to do the things of the way that we tell them we want them to do. In the House, they could actually appear to be as progressive as they want, knowing that the Senate will kill it. So what is the point? Ultimately speaking, we're talking about people who are either feckless or are incredibly weak. Either way, we don't get what we want, what we need. So it doesn't really matter. Are they feckless? I don't care. Are they weak? I don't care. Are they actually bought and sold? I don't care. I assume, based upon the trajectory of our history, that whether they are weak or bought and sold, at the end of the day, it's the same story for us. We continually get shafted, regardless of who goes, regardless of what they say, regardless of what they run on and what they claim they want. The reasons they put forward are bullshit. We know it. I'm tired of talking about it. We are in a better position if we stop paying attention to them, not to ignore what they say and do, but to stop advocating for them, to stop trying to tear them down. It doesn't matter. Force them to do what we need to do. That is how the suffragettes did it. That is how the labor movement did it. That is how the civil rights movement did it. They didn't fucking care who was in office. They cared what they could do about those people in office. And that's when we won things. That's when we actually made substantive change that drastically, not marginally, drastically changed the lives of people in this country and around the world for the better. And it wasn't good enough. It was still racist as fuck in a lot of places, sexist as fuck in a lot of places. But that's the only time the needle actually substantively moved in our direction. And it was hard, and a lot of us died, and a lot of us went to prison. But unless we are willing to go that extra mile, do you know what the temperature was on the ground in Antarctica, in the Arctic Circle? 118 fucking degrees Fahrenheit. 118 degrees, 48 degrees Celsius for anyone in Canada. 118 fucking degrees. Now, temperature spikes and heat waves up there are not uncommon, but they are usually brief and they are rare. What's happening right now is that it is significantly more common and they are happening for longer periods of time. Yeah. We are running out of time. For anyone who was in the suffragette movement at the turn of the 19th century, technically speaking, your life was shit before. You couldn't vote. You had no voice. You had no political power. And they waited and they waited and they waited and they hoped that someone was going to go to bat for them who did have power. When they realized that no one was, they stopped caring who, and they started caring, what are we going to actually do? Are we going to continuously roll over and not get what we want, or are we going to finally do something? But on a planetary scale, on an environmental scale, if they never got the right to vote, they still had the ability to live in an environment that wasn't going to kill them. We don't have that luxury anymore. Whether you think healthcare is an emergent issue or not, whether you think voting rights is an emergent issue or not, it doesn't fucking matter. We are losing the climate battle. So we don't have time to simply hope that in 2 years' time, we'll be able to get some more progressives in there. Because even if that were the answer, we might fucking lose. And if we can't provide substantive change for the people right now in this short window of opportunity, while we have both chambers of Congress and the White House, we are playing a very dangerous game with the next round of federal elections. Democrats will likely lose, and they will deserve to lose. And we will deserve to lose our lives if we don't recognize this and stand up and do something, because we are running out of fucking time. Every time, every piece of energy you spend exalting someone, even if the only thing you're doing is saying, well, Biden is better than Trump, that's not good enough, because Biden is not good. Biden will not fix anything. He doesn't want to. You have to look at his history, and you have to look at his rhetoric during the election and everything that he has backpedaled on. And even the few things that he has allowed to happen are temporary, insufficient, bound to lose. So we're always going to be right back where we started. So saying that he's better than Trump is insufficient, because for people who are just passively paying attention, that sounds like Biden is good. And Biden is not good. And if we want the change we need in the time frame that we have left, better than Trump is a disaster. Better than Trump is treasonous to our lives. And I'm tired of having to point this out. I'm tired of raising issues and having people say, not now, not now, not now. I'm tired of having to show that Biden is, and most Democrats in power are not interested in doing this, and showing the arc of history that proves it, and showing everything they've said that proves it, and being told that I'm just being fucking negative.
I just think it's interesting, especially kind of like this. So with this idea of like so initially I think like the Kyle Rittenhouses and like these people, I think like the insurrectionists and stuff like this, it's like it feels like things are so twisted at this point where it's like people's perspectives, and thank you mainstream media, people's perspectives are so warped right now. And what I mean, just to pull it full circle, to bring it back to the cult of personality, because I mean that's essentially what it is like, I mean not what it is, but I mean that's essentially that's an essential part of it, because it
It
was
makes,
Trump worship, and it still is Trump worship, you know what I mean?
yeah.
People who took whatever came out of his mouth as being um law. What is the expression is not coming to me, but I
It's
mean
gospel,
just
as gospel.
completely lost in this trust in putting all of their trust in Trump, who is a fucking nutcase. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's shit that is nowhere near.
Well,
So
the,
people are, completely, and of course the mainstream media, I mean, I'm, Fox News in particular, and now there are some other ones, kind of like, putting that out there and then solidifying what people believe. And then of course we can all look at that and say like, well, that is fucking nutty. But it's much harder, I think, to look at ourselves and say, well,
well,
who are
everyone,
we worshiping, and whose word are we taking as gospel?
yeah,
Gospel. That's what the one I was trying to think.
yes.
And how does that influence how we behave in the world and what we think is, yeah.
And are we willing to be open to the idea that we might be wrong?
Yeah.
But the thing is that what's really dangerous about Trump is not what a lot of people, I find, seem to think. He is a pathological liar, but he gets away with it largely because there's an element of truth in a lot of the things that he says. There's just enough truth to make it resonate with people. But it's wrapped up in so much shit that if you actually want to talk about the kernel of truth that was in there, you get labeled a Trump supporter. What, do you agree with Trump? No. Here's a hot toddy. Go to sleep.
It's such lazy.
It's very lazy, but it's very convenient. He talks about, fake news. But I'm sorry, if you have 5 corporations owning 90% of all media, then you are definitely going to get a biased news outlet, no matter who you watch. So yeah, there's a problem with our fucking media, and we need to fucking talk about it. But now we can't, because Trump talked about it first,
right.
And Trump is crazy, but because he talked about it, now it's off limits. Anyone that wants to talk about it is just like Trump.
The clarification, we look at politicians as if they're the leaders, but they're not even really supposed to lead. They're supposed to
Yeah.
follow.
Hmm.
We're supposed to be the leaders, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, it just kind of remind me of that, because no politician can do anything without a movement, without the support of their constituents, without
Yeah.
people advocating, knowing, without people making it very visible and very
Yeah.
known that,
Hmm.
this is something that needs to be done. And yet, a lot of times we look at politicians like they're the end all be all, like they're supposed to be making the moves, kid. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, we're supposed to build that movement so that they
Absolutely.
have to move, right? So that they
Exactly.
have to make those things. Reading your post is like, for me, um personally, I try not to get into like these drama things that are,
Mm.
really, I think you hit the nail on the head with cult of personality, because it's just these, like, having these conversations about people, and I'm like, I don't care about like, it's not that I don't care. I do think that there need to be people, good people in office, and that, whatever. I do think that that's important. But having this conversation, having these like kind of side battles about something that's not
Mhm.
even having a conversation about the issues, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, why am I wasted? Like, why does anybody waste their time on that? And I get that it gets clicks. You know what I mean? So that's,
It-
it.
if all I wanted to do was be popular, I know how to do that,
Mm.
but I would have to sell my soul. The thing is that Democrats on the ground, rank and file Democrats, vote blue no matter who, Democrats loved me, when I yelled at a Republican. As long as they thought that my issue was with Republicans and only with
uh,
Republicans, then I was revered. And if all I wanted was to be popular, if all I wanted was a seat at the table, then yeah. But to get to the seat, to get to that table, means I'm not who I am, means I don't advocate for what I advocate for, means I have to roll over, which means nothing changes. Nothing changes. If you're at that table, then nothing is going to change, because that's what that table is designed for. So if we want change, if and if we don't want to destroy that table before we make another one, we have to simply make another one and make that other table irrelevant. If we can't do that,
I like this.
then one of the two things is going to happen. Either we're going to go down, all of us, including the people who didn't see it coming, who thought the Democrats were the answer. They'll be very surprised. Or it's going to go the other way. And it's going to be violent, and it's going to take a lot of lives. And we're probably going to lose, because I'm sorry, the federal government has fucking drones. And if they want to, they can take us out and explain it away later on. They already own everything. I'm sorry, 5 corporations own 90% of the media.
So fucking crazy.
Even if you do read the New York Times and the Washington Post, and you do watch CNN, MSNBC, and Fox, they're all corporate owned. You are getting a very skewed, very biased analysis, if you even want to call it analysis. It's largely, become entertainment, because they want clicks. And they want clicks based upon a narrative that will not threaten the current power structures that we have in place right now. So they're very happy to be controversial. Controversial gets clicks, but they're not going to allow for someone like Bernie Sanders, to be president. And quite honestly, if Bernie Sanders was president, we're still not fucking done.
Right.
Bernie Sanders, like FDR before him, needs a movement that is going to force not just him to do it. I'm sure Bernie wants to do it, but Bernie can't do it because he is surrounded in Washington by people who are paid not to do it, who are incentivized in every way you can think of to not do it. So the only way to get Bernie to be allowed to do it is for us to take to the streets, is for us to do a general strike, which requires mutual aid, which requires sacrifice.